Take a word from Professor Madhav Nalapat, a strategic expert joining us. Professor Madhav Nalapat, a very good morning to you. How do you read into the latest situation unfolding in Russia? We're given to understand that finally there's been some sort of a de-escalation when it comes to the rebellion that was initiated by the Wagner group against the Kremlin military forces.
Look, I've been saying for more than 6 months that Putin is getting more and more a bad name in Russia, specifically within Russian nationalists and the military. The perception is that Putin is reluctant to use the overwhelming force that the Russian military has and is basically acting as though the Russian military is a third world army without the kind of overwhelming force that it has. I'm not just talking about nuclear weapons, but several other modern weapons that they have developed and which so far have not been used. Prigozhin wants Putin to be the Putin of Chechnya, completely devastate Ukraine, flatten Kiev. And this is what he's upset about. The reason why they had to come to an understanding about him, they had to give him safe refuge, is because many in the military support Prigozhin. They believe that Sergei Shoigu and Gerasimov are too respectful of Putin, and as a consequence, a war has been dragging on and on and on that shows the Russian military in a very poor light. They want to make a quick end of the war by using more of the advanced weapons and that the Russians possess. And so far, Putin has hesitated to do that. Putin is under very heavy pressure because the military is completely dissatisfied with what they see as a weak leader who is basically unwilling to go all out in ensuring that the battle in Ukraine is won by Russia. So this is the problem that Putin is facing. Prigozhin is only one of them who really regard Putin, frankly, as a very weak war leader. The old Putin, they say, is gone. And the new Putin is a much softer man. And frankly, I'm very nervous that Putin may be forced to go all out because that could create a lot of complications, including in the global economy. So I hope that doesn't happen. But I'd only like to say the Prigozhin revolt is symptomatic of the deep dissatisfaction inside the Russian military, inside several elements of people who used to once support Putin.
But Mr. Madhav Nalapat, yes. What do you make of the statement that's been released by Kremlin spokesman who says that it's not going to have any impact as far as the special military operation in Ukraine is concerned? Do you see that happening now that Wagner group is definitely against the Russian military forces?
Look, Dmitry Peskov echoes the voice of the there's no question that he is a spokesperson. He is not the decider. Putin is the decider. And Peskov will say that the special military operation will persist. The point is, how long can Putin resist the pressure to go all out? To go all out, for example, in targeted bombing of several Ukrainian cities on the Polish frontier. There's been a very clear demand from the Russian military that you have to target entry points from the Polish frontier so that the flow of weapons into Ukraine from the west is blocked. None of this is happening. Putin, frankly, is fighting this war with a lot of self-imposed constraints. Now, it reminds me, for example, of Kargil, where Prime Minister Vajpayee said Indian aircraft should not cross the line of control, even though the line of control is not recognized by India. But, and as a consequence, the war went on a little longer than we should have. But of course, at least the point is that should appear in good stead as a peace-loving country. Putin is hoping to come back to the international someday, and that's why he's holding his fire, his advanced fire. But my worry is that that he's becoming weaker and weaker, and as a consequence,
Yes.
he might be forced to resort to much more tougher measures against Ukraine.
Yes, but Mr. Nalapat, from the point that you just mentioned that Putin seems to be getting weaker when it comes to its military forces especially, how do you view this panning out in the days to come? Also, do you feel the fact that Russia did approach Belarus in this case, it had no other option than to approach Belarus to stand firm against the Wagner group?
Look, the fact is that the Wagner group, the prigozhin, said to Putin, I'm challenging you, I don't like you. He never named Putin, and that is what has saved him. But he named Sergei Shoigu and Gerasimov, the army commander, and Sergei Shoigu, the defense minister, who are basically proxies for Putin. His real target was Vladimir Putin. And Putin could not obviously cut a deal with him directly, because then the image that he's a weak compromiser will become even more. So he relied on his good friend Lukashenko to cut that deal on his behalf. But I'm certain that the entire deal was scripted in Moscow, conveyed, to Lukashenko, and then told by Lukashenko to Prigozhin, who said, all right, I think he has made his point. His point is very clear. If this war drags on for much longer in the way it is dragging on, there could be a revolt, not just in the Wagner group, but in the Russian military.